because it's the president who's calling the shots. Even though Baker has the reputation of being the great negotiator, it is the president who has the reins in this case.
Thanks, Bill. President Bush today appealed to all nations in the alliance against Iraq to resist pressure for compromise. White House correspondent Wyatt Andrews has that part of the story.
Worried that the international coalition might be in danger of folding, the president taped a speech for worldwide distribution today, appealing once more for a global hard line.
Saddam may seek to split the coalition, to exploit our sincere desire for peace, to secure for himself the spoils of war.
No compromises, argued the president. Confront Saddam now.
The next conflict will find him stronger still, perhaps in possession even of nuclear weapons, and far more difficult to defeat. And that is why we simply cannot accept anything less than full compliance with the United Nations dictates.
In a new CBS News New York Times poll, 2/3 of all Americans agree with Mr. Bush's no-compromise stand. 67% think the United States should demand that Iraq leave Kuwait entirely. Just 19% would negotiate part of Kuwait away. Despite that, there is deep division over how and when to get Iraq out. 46% favor military action to liberate Kuwait immediately after the January 15th deadline, while 47% believe sanctions should be given more time. The president, meanwhile, sent Congress a letter formally asking for a resolution granting him permission to oust Iraq militarily. Mr. Bush pleaded for unity on the issue, saying anything else, quote, would only encourage Iraqi intransigence. But the Democratic leader of the Senate said he would oppose what amounts to a blank check.
But he's coming to the Congress and saying, even though I haven't made a decision to use force, I want the authority to make war at some future time of my choosing, under future circumstances which neither I nor you can know will then exist.
Most congressional leaders believe the president will win a use of force resolution, but say there is no chance for real unity. Many Republicans are already worried that the president's effort to send a strong signal to Saddam Hussein will be hurt by the debate, even if he wins it. Wyatt Andrews, CBS News, the White House.
The Iraqi government today officially held out little hope for tomorrow's encounter here in Geneva. Scott Pelley has our report from Baghdad.
On the eve of the Geneva meeting, Iraq has launched a new, unexpected diplomatic initiative, this time with its old enemy, Iran. Saddam Hussein's second-in-command arrived in the Iranian capital today and asked for an acceleration of the relationship between what he called the two sister nations. Iran has been a vital member of the coalition against Iraq. With the long land border between the two countries, Iran is essential to the economic embargo. An open border with Iran would greatly enhance Iraq's ability to fight and lengthen any potential conflict. Some observers believe this could be one of the keys to Saddam's military strategy.
So far, Saddam seems to believe he could survive an American attack long enough to mobilize international opinion against the United States and break up the alliance.
But in these last hours before Geneva, Baghdad prepares for war. The German ambassador left the country today. The U.S. embassy is increasing security, shredding documents, and drafting plans for evacuation. Iraqi hospitals have been ordered to prepare for casualties, and sidewalk tailors are busy taking new measurements for an old pattern. The milkman, Mr. Adel, says, "Since I was a boy, they talked about winning Kuwait. We are ready to fight." Ashraf, the furniture maker, says, "Iraq is strong. We will win." The copper merchant, Jaffa Saeed, believes there will be no war because President Bush does not want his soldiers to die. Throughout the Iraqi capital tonight, there is growing apprehension. Scott Pelley, CBS News, Baghdad.
When tomorrow's meeting is over, we will know whether there are days, weeks of additional maneuvering and war put off, or whether the time for talk is nearly over and war imminent. The Iraqis come with one clear goal: to open a round of wide-ranging talks. Secretary Baker's job is to avoid war without giving Saddam a victory. In a moment, we'll be talking to an experienced negotiator about what could happen when these two men get behind closed doors as we continue our coverage of Countdown to Confrontation.
You know,
The threat of war is real and serious. The reason they have not withdrawn is because Saddam Hussein thinks getting out would be even worse for him than the risk of war. We have clarified the risk of war. We have not clarified what will happen to him if he withdraws. There have been a number of counter threats, undercutting the UN sanctions, talking about overthrowing his government, talking about doing that. So if he gets out, he's out of the frying pan into the fire. He's lost Kuwait, he looks like a loser, and sanctions will continue with more and more requests.
When Secretary Baker and Foreign Minister Aziz get together, will real negotiating happen in that room, or is it simply impossible under the circumstances?
Obviously, neither foreign minister is going to commit their president to something unexpected or back off from their prior statements. But they could sit down and Aziz could say, look, I'll assume you're not going to renegotiate our withdrawal, but you've asked us to accept the UN objectives of withdrawal and reestablishing the Kuwait government. Do you, the United States, accept those objectives, or do you have some secret objectives of your own? Can't we recommend that the United States accept the same goals that we have? Those are all you're going to ask for. You're not going to come and try to overthrow the government.
Your Secretary Baker, what would you do in that room tomorrow?
I would say the President of the United States said we're not going to renegotiate the objectives of the UN resolutions. I'm not going to make anything less than full withdrawal and reestablishment of the government and no rewards for your aggression. I'm happy to consider the list of things that you want clarification on. We've clarified what will happen to you if you stay in Kuwait. That's war, a high risk of war. Now, I'm happy to work with you. We said we're not going to attack you. Are you looking for assurances that the Israelis are not going to attack you, the British? What do you want to know about sanctions? I don't think we're going to sell you arms, but maybe food and other stuff. Maybe you can earn some money. Let's go through the list without committing either side and generate a package that makes sense.
You know there are a number of people who say, but it's dishonorable to negotiate with, quote, the butcher of Baghdad. It's a dishonorable practice individually for people, dishonorable for nations.
We have military means of influencing people, economic and political. I don't want to fight with my political arm tied behind my back. When the president says the decision of war or peace is up to Saddam Hussein, I say, gosh, we're debating between Congress and the president who can declare war. Nobody authorized him to delegate to this so-and-so, this tyrant.
I heard nothing that suggested to me any Iraqi flexibility whatsoever on complying with the United Nations Security Council resolutions.
We had grave or big differences about the issues we addressed.
War or peace? I can't misrepresent this to the American people. I am discouraged.